in such a dark room right now. What's up, Facebook? All right, so, and for those of you watching on Facebook, sorry for the weird lighting. I'm in a dark room, obviously, and it's super stormy outside, and the only light I've got in my face is actually the one on my phone, which is because that's streaming to Instagram. What's up, Christina? You're like a regular on these things now. I love it. Anyway, so hey, Seth. So today is for, in case you haven't been following, I'm doing a seven-day live stream extravaganza, I guess you could say. And today is day 4. I'll recap what the other ones were briefly in a second, but I'm just laughing at my dark background. It looks so dramatic. And Facebook, you can't see it, but on Instagram, I've got one of the filters on that's like sending heart arrows at my own face, which incidentally is very, very appropriate for today's topic. So, Christina, totally random that you hooked on, and here you are again. Yeah, totally. We are tuned in on the same cyber vibes, I guess, the same frequency. I love it. So quick recap. Yes, I'm doing 7 days of self-mastery, and how it started was I was laying in bed the other night, and I was like, what are the main building blocks of self-mastery? What are the most important parts of self-development? And Seth, totally Blair Witch. You know, I still have never actually seen that movie. I cannot believe it. I really need to watch it because I absolutely love scary movies of all kinds. So the fact that I haven't seen Blair Witch is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, I was laying in bed and I was asking myself, what are the main pieces of personal development? Like if I break it down in just the main building blocks, what are they? And so I came up with 7 of them, and I've been talking about one each day. And today is day 4. What's up, Chris? My husband's on here now. And so, hey, Jason Wilding, long time no see. So I'll just recap days 1, 2, and 3 real quick. Day 1 was the power of identity, and you can go back and watch it if you haven't seen it. And Instagram, I think these are disappearing after 24 hours, so go find them on Facebook. If we're not friends on Facebook, go find me on Facebook. So day 1 was the power of identity, and that was all about basically the importance of knowing who you are and how that is, and not just who you are, but like who you think you are, and how who you think you are has informed perhaps so much of your own experience of your reality. And so much of these identities that we create for ourselves are based on external conditioning and our childhood and all of that. And I think it's really important to honor that and, do any forgiveness that we need to, but also to realize that these identities that we've sort of unintentionally and kind of naturally and automatically created for ourselves aren't necessarily the ones that are really true to who we are. And there's so much work you can do around that. But at the end of the day, like really just getting curious about who am I, what makes me tick, what is most important to me, right? So it's work on things like values and passions and what's your purpose and what do you care most about and how do you make your life be about that? But anyway, that was day 1. You can go back and watch it. Day 2 was about knowing what you want. And my whole thing was like, most of us are just kind of walking around, we're reacting to the world, right? And we have been doing so by default for a long time. So it's like the world has kind of trained us to have these different stories and ideas about what we're supposed to want. And then we go after those things and we create our lives based on those other things, when what works a lot better is to actually figure out what you really want. And it's incredible to see how hard that is for a lot of us and how just distracted we've been for, decades in many cases. So I think it's really important to get honest with ourselves and start to check in and honor, like, what do I actually really want deep down? And oftentimes what you truly desire, your big goals, dreams, or whatever it is that you're moving toward, it's a lot easier to identify those things once you have a better idea of what's important to you, which is why I love kind of doing the work in parallel, but especially concentrating first and foremost on who you are and what your identity is and your core beliefs and all of that, and purpose-driven, exactly like Seth is saying. So knowing who you are and then knowing what you want, I think of that as like who you are and where you are is like point A, point B is where you want to go, so goals, dreams, whatever, and then you're just going in a straight line from A to B and, trying to stay on the path. And of course we get distracted, we go on detours, we go on tangents, life happens, whatever. And then it's about recovering back to that path and learning how to course correct and learning how to fail and learn from our failures. Anyway, that's a whole nother rant. That was day 2, was knowing what you want. I often say that if I had to boil down my entire field of study and all the work that I do, it's about helping people figure out what they want, like so much of the time. And then day 3 was about taking inspired action, and even more specifically taking imperfect inspired action, and about how, you know, there's a lot that can happen by even just getting clear on what you want, especially once you get into the more woo-woo stuff and manifestation, and so much of that has to do with believing that you can have what it is that you want, etc. But that's a whole tangent. But like, we live in the real physical plane, and we do actually have to go do stuff to create the lives we want and to go get our goals and dreams and desires. So it's important to take action. So we talked a little bit about like what kinds of action and how it can be, you know, big scary leaps, but it can also just be tiny little baby steps and like 1% shifts and incremental upgrades. And those baby steps totally add up over time. So it's really, really great to be in action, but especially when you're coming from the inside out. So not necessarily taking action that other people think you should do, or taking action based on who you think you're supposed to be and what it is that you think you want. But once you've done some work around who am I really and what do I actually want, then to come from that place to go take action. And then it's action that's like, it's inspired. It's action that kind of comes from your intuition, from you get these urges and like nudges from the universe, or urges from your soul, or like whispers in your heart. And those feel so, so different than the I should be doing this because, you know, that's who I'm supposed to be, or whatever it is. So taking inspired action and just doing it imperfectly, not waiting, and going into perfectionism, not coming up with a bunch of excuses for why you shouldn't, you know, that's a whole nother thing. Go watch day 3, which brings us to day 4. So day 4, and it's so funny that I'm doing this today because this topic is very real for me right now. So today's topic is feel your emotions, don't fear them. And it's actually something I feel very strongly about, and something that I'm feeling more and more called to dig deeper into, and to teach more on, and to learn more about, and also really, I don't know, maybe even like create events. And I think a lot of emotion type work needs to be experienced in person. And so we'll see what happens, but I'm feeling really called to maybe do more like transformational, experiential, in-person retreats or events or something around that, because I'm seeing a huge need for it. And, you know, I kind of thought it was like just me before. Oh, I just noticed I'm not seeing the comments on Instagram. Hi guys, thank you for all the waves and the highs. I will go comment and like on your comments later. But anyway, I'm seeing a huge need for it. And I kind of hadn't realized how big the need for processing our emotions and honoring our emotions and feeling our emotions is for everyone. Like, I know that I'm a very sensitive person. I'm a crier, I'm a feeler, I always have been. And so I knew I had a huge need. But in a lot of ways, I kind of chalk that up to being, you know, I identify as an empath, as someone who not only, you know, can feel for other people, but I literally feel other people's feelings, and I feel them very heavily. And I've had to do a lot of work around learning to manage my own energy so I don't take on everybody else's stuff, right? So, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, right? If you if you identify as an empath, say so in the comments, because I would love to acknowledge you. Like, there are a lot of us out there. But an empath, I also identify as a highly sensitive person, and HSP. So if you're an HSP, you not only are you sensitive emotionally, but you may be sensitive to your surroundings too. Like, you might be sensitive to loud noises, or to, you know, when there's a lot of chaos around you. You're very sensitive to even just energy. Like, HSPs tend to be able to walk into a room and immediately feel like, whoa, something is off. Like, somebody just had a fight. There's something funky and weird in here. So maybe you're an empath, maybe you're an HSP, maybe you're an introvert, or an extroverted introvert, or an introverted extrovert. I would say I'm an extroverted introvert. I love my people, but I can really only go be social. Like, I can go stand on a stage, talk in front of people. I love that. I love being social. I'll be out all night. I'll dance, whatever. But I have to charge my battery in order to do that. Like, have to charge it significantly before I can go do that. And then after I've done that, I need to recharge it significantly. So I need a ton of time, solo time. And the emotional experience that I get from being extroverted takes a huge toll. And so then I have to charge it. And I have all sorts of like kind of social hangovers afterwards, where I have to then go and like regroup my emotions. So anyway, so those of you who identify with any of those things and can relate, like, please say so in the comments, just so I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not, but we definitely need to process our emotions. It's super, super important. And what I'm realizing now is, it's not just us sensitive folks. I'm also Cancer. We are very sensitive. We're like big mush balls on the inside, but strong on the outside. But all humans, we all need to process our emotions. We all need to honor them. Like, being human equals being emotional. Emotions are just part of our human experience. And unfortunately, Seth, beyond empath auras, energies, it is visible for some. Yeah, I love that. Totally. Like, we all need to feel our emotions. It's so just part of our human experience. And unfortunately, we live in a culture, at least, depending on where you are, of course, and maybe you've always been great at feeling your emotions, doing their whole thing. Maybe you've always been around people who encourage that and create safe spaces for that. And if so, that's awesome. And if anything, I would say celebrate that, own it, and then go help other people do the same, because we desperately need it. Like, I think that we unfortunately live in a culture where collectively, at least overall, there aren't enough people talking about the fact that it is safe and normal to, what's up, Sarah, to feel our emotions, and that we actually need to. And not only is it safe to do so, it's really important to do so. My belief is that the more we have emotions that we don't process, and when I say process, I just mean like feel them, most, I think in our society too, especially in the workplace, there's so much culture and like, there are all these assumptions around, you're supposed to be this like unfeeling robot who just gets a bunch of work done, and feelings are like what you do at home. You cry in the corner if you need to, but don't bring that shit to work or whatever. And so a lot of us become really unfeeling, and we turn off our emotions, or we bottle them up, or whatever it is. Oh my gosh, my hair is crazy. Good thing you can't see it. And so when we don't express our emotions or process them in some sort of healthy way, it's just like a soda bottle that's been shaken up. We bottle all these emotions up, and because they don't have, like, if emotions are just a healthy part of our human experience, if we don't process them on a regular basis, then they get bottled down, and then a lot of things can happen. Either they get so bottled up that eventually the pressure builds and we explode and they come out in some unhelpful way or some unhealthy way. You snap at someone, you get aggressive, whatever it is, or they get so bottled up that they don't come out, and then they just live in your body. And unfortunately, emotions can get really trapped in places. For anybody who's familiar with any sort of somatic work, or even some of the different types of chiropractic or any of the energy modalities, certainly will tell you that people store energies in different parts of their body. I think especially, and somebody else who knows more can chime in here, but especially in our hips, we store a lot, in our spine, in different places in our muscles and things, and that can lead to disease, that can lead to all sorts of other stuff. I'm not an expert on that stuff, but the more I learn, the more I'm seeing how much it gets trapped in our bodies, and it needs to be worked out and worked through. So the point is, please, please, please do not bottle up your emotions and not let them out. It is not healthy for you, for your health. It's not healthy for the people around you. It's really important to let them out. And there are also very healthy ways to do it, and there are very, call them unhealthy or maybe unhelpful ways to do them. I'm just going to do one thing here. Christina, let's see, hallelujah regarding need for processing emotions, trapped emotions, yes, and yes to events, loving this for later. Do you have any quick resources to gain greater clarity on point A? I'm going to answer that later. So the main point is, don't bottle them up, process them, release them in some shape or form, preferably look for healthy ways to release them. I'm going to say more about that in a second, but one thing before I forget is, so I believe that we all have this massive human range. So for those of you who know me in real life, you know that I have very, very long arms. So just imagine both my arms stretching out to my sides. That's a big, big range. So our human range of emotions is massive, right? We can feel the highest of the highs, the lowest of the lows. And the more we get to do that, the more we experience the richness of life, I believe, right? And I think the healthy way to do it is to be able to experience the full spectrum of your emotions and have the mental wherewithal and the discipline and the self-control to be able to sort of direct those emotions and manage them in a healthy way. Most of us don't know how to do that, right? And unfortunately, I think most of us live very stunted emotional life. So we have this kind of normal range about what is appropriate to show in public And I think that comes from a lot of different kinds of conditioning. But let's say that the average person, I'm just making up these stats, right? But the average person has a range that's like this size, if the full spectrum is my full wingspan. So the average is here, and they're so scared to go to the darker emotions and the harder, like intense grief or anger or, you know, frustration, exasperation, or rage, especially. A lot of the emotions that are around, that are associated, that are different kinds of anger or different kind of sadness, are really scary for a lot of us who haven't been taught how to process them in a healthy way. So we just avoid them. And because we're so centered on the dark side of emotions, my belief is that we can only go as high as we can go low. So if this is the middle and I'm only willing to go this dark, then I'm only going to get this high. Maybe I get like random little highs over here, but they're not going to be that full kind of, it's not going to be ecstasy. It's not going to be bliss. It's not going to be just deep and pure joy, right? It's going to be like contentment or kind of happy or like fleeting moments of pleasure or something, right? So my belief is that we need to actually get more comfortable feeling our full range, which takes practice and it takes work. But the good news is we can all get better at it. And I think it's about having safe spaces where we're allowed to feel, especially people who can hold your emotion, right? There's something really deeply amazing and comforting around with being around another person who can like handle your emotions. So, you know, find people like that. But anyway, so the range, the more you're willing to go high, the more you'll be able to go low, and vice versa. So, you know, push yourself, give yourself permission to feel, and then the more experience you get feeling your feelings, the wider your range will get. And that would be my goal for everyone. But to do it like in a slow, gradual, safe way, depending on wherever you're at. You know, maybe you're already in the fully expressed range, and that's awesome. Maybe you're here and you got some work to do, right? So start small. In terms of how do we actually process the difficult emotions, there's so many different ways out there, and that's a whole nother rant, so I won't bore you with that. But I'm just going to give you some examples from my own life. So for me, for example, I'm generally a pretty happy-go-lucky person. You guys probably know I'm very positive. I always look for the silver lining. Like I'm a total ninja at shifting perspectives, and I can very quickly find the good in something. And of course, I have my off days. Like I said, I'm sensitive. I also get, you know, I get frustrated. I get sad. I get angry. And when I have days like that, I have tools that I use to process them in a healthy way. Some of my favorite tools, several of which I have used today because I was just having kind of an emotionally rough day, and it doesn't even matter why. If you're curious, I can tell you later, but it's just a bunch of different factors. And I was having a very emotional up and down roller coaster day. And so I've called on some of the different tools that I use. So one, for example, is a good old like ugly cry, right? The shower is a great place to have an ugly cry. Today I cried in like multiple different physical locations just because I was, my battery's running low. So a good cry is one of them. Letting out a primal scream can be incredibly therapeutic. So a great place to do that is in a car by yourself with the radio turned up. You can do it into a pillow or a jacket. It's a great place. Maybe not like in a public place where you're going to scare the shit out of people, right? Like be mindful. But a good cry, a good scream. An angry solo dance party. Actually didn't do that today, but my knees are injured, but I definitely do that often. So just turning on whatever kind of music is going to match your mood and then just dancing your face off to it, right? It can be super good. Talking to somebody who understands. I had some great conversations today about it, super helpful. Even just naming it, acknowledging it. I wrote about it in my journal. I texted several friends / clients. I actually try to be very transparent and vulnerable with my clients because I'm modeling for them that I think it's important to feel our feelings, right? So I'm like texting with my clients telling them that I'm feeling super emotional today, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so those are just a few tools. There's so many other, you know, to go see a therapist, like talk to whatever. There's so many different things you can do. But the point is, when you feel emotions coming up, honor them, feel them. Like there's like the noticing of them and giving them space, and then also the expressing them somehow, which could be the yell or the cry or the talking or the naming it or whatever it is. So super important for your health. It's good for your relationships. Spiritual growth is good for everything, right? So, and the reason I say feel your feelings, don't fear them, is because most of us do fear them, I believe. Like they're scary, especially the emotions that we don't have a lot of experience with, and so we just avoid them. Oh, and I was going to say, like the ways that we typically avoid emotions, other than just bottling them up and distracting ourselves with work or whatever, we numb our emotions. Like typical things, drugs, alcohol, all night shopping, food, sex, like whatever, name your vice of choice. All of those things can be great in moderation. And when they go to excess, obviously can cause problems. And when we're numbing difficult emotions, so much of the time, those are the things we go to, whatever our favorite vices, like numb the shit. I don't want to feel it, so I'm gonna eat some food. I don't want to feel it, so I'm gonna drink some wine. I don't want to feel it, so I'm gonna, buy for $400 worth of shit I don't eat on Amazon, whatever your thing is, right? So just something to be aware of. And when you learn to feel your emotions, then you have less of a need to go numb. The other thing is escape, which I guess you could say it's the same thing. Escaping from your emotions or numbing them out. Like one is just distraction to get away, go watch a movie, go do something else. One is like numbing by having an excess of something that makes you stop feeling. So feel your feelings, y'all. So important, totally normal. It's just a part of the human experience. Your emotions are not something to be afraid of. They're something I believe to just dive into, celebrate them, embrace them. And if you don't know how to do it by yourself, get support. There are a lot of amazing people out there that can help you feel your feelings and do so in a safe way, no matter what your situation. So that's my rant for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for the hearts and the likes. It makes these things so much more fun. So, and feel free to share this with anybody who you think might need to hear this message today. I will be back tomorrow with day 5. Thank you. Bye.